Today is March the 15th, 2016. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I'm in Oklahoma City to speak with Lillie Embry, and this is part of our Rosie the Riveter series, so thank you for having me today. Let's begin with having you tell us when and where you were born.
I was born in Lexington, Oklahoma, 1926, and where and when I was born.
Do you want to give your birthday, month, and
September 7, 1926.
Okay, so coming up on 90.
Yeah.
Well, what did your parents do for a living?
My dad was a farmer, and he inherited this farm from his parents, and his parents had made the run in Oklahoma, and that's how they acquired the Newville farm there in Lexington.
Where had they come from?
Let's see, my grandparents came from... My parents were born there. My dad was born there, but on the farm, but his parents came from, I believe it was Wisconsin, maybe.
Okay. What did he raise?
My dad had cattle, and he had a lot of cattle, and we had cotton. He grew cotton and all kinds of hay, baled hay for the cattle, and all kinds of grains, wheat. And I remember we used to have all the neighbors would come in and have thrashers, they called them, when they did the crops. All the women in the neighborhood, not neighborhood, but farms, they'd come and all cook for those men when they get through with the harvesting of the wheat.
And they just moved from farm to farm? The thrashers?
Yeah, when they do get through with one of the farms, they would go to another one.
Did you have to help your mother cook?
My mother passed away when I was 4 years old, and my older sister, she sort of raised, there was 8 of us children, and she sort of took over the mother role, and my older brother too helped, and with my dad, but my dad later remarried, and so at 10 years old I had a stepmother. She was very good, very great stepmother that I had.
So 8 children.
Yeah.
Where were you in the order?
Next to the youngest.
Almost the baby.
Yeah. My 2-year-old, my youngest sister and I are the only ones left, and she's 2 years younger than me, and so she was only 2 when my mother passed away.
That was hard, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Why did she pass away?
It was just appendicitis. And she was only 34 years old when she passed away.
They just didn't know soon enough. Yeah, that happened a lot back in those years. Well, did you have to help pick cotton?
Oh, yes. Yes, I picked cotton, I milked cows, and...
Is it hard to learn?
Yeah. Well, I guess growing up with it, it was, I don't remember it being hard. I know later, after I was married and had children, we'd go back down to the farm, you know, and they take the kids, take my boys, and my dad would always try to teach them to milk, you know, and he's always kidding them around, you know, and squirting milk in their eyes. They'd tell them.
What was his name, your dad's name?
My dad's name was Harold John Newville.
Newville. Well, that was your maiden name was Newville?
Mm-hmm.
That was the name of the town, too?
No, Lexington was in Lexington, Oklahoma.
Okay.
But you know, somewhere my grandparents or great grandparents or something come from France. You know, they originally came from France, and there's a little town in France that's called Newville.
Okay.
I think they left off the E, Newville, and we always spelled it with an E on the end.
I'm not sure where Lexington is.
Oh, it is Purcell. You know, have you heard of Purcell?
Uh-huh.
And that bridge, you know, there was a lot of writing about the bridge in paper not long ago when they were fixing it. It's just across the bridge from Purcell, and just 20 miles from Norman, Oklahoma.
So what county would that be? What county would that be?
Cleveland.
Cleveland, okay.
Cleveland County.
Okay. Well, can you describe the house you grew up in?
Yes, it was a two-story house. And later, when I think I was still in elementary school there, and the schoolhouse was on the little grade school was, my dad had given them the land for that schoolhouse to be built, Spring Hill Schoolhouse. And it was 3 miles east of Lexington, the farm was. And when they quit having school there, I don't know what year that was, but and they bused all the children from out in the country, you know, into Lexington grade school. Well, one of my brothers eventually made that farm, that schoolhouse into his home.
Oh.
And raised his family there.
Is it still standing?
It is, but barely. It really needs to be gone. But it's now it belongs to somebody else that's not in the Newville family.
How many years did you go there? What grades?
It was through the 8th grade
Okay.
at Spring Hill, and then Lexington was the high school, and we went 9 through 12 there. We were bused to Lexington High School.
What year did you graduate?
1944.
Oh, during the war. During
Yes,
the war.
uh-huh. And my husband was also, you know, lived out in the country and with his mother and family, and of course we were high school sweethearts, and we got married in 45 after, because he went to the Navy. He joined the Navy when they were doing the drafting. He wanted to be in the Navy, so he just joined the Navy.
High school sweethearts.
High school sweethearts.
What would you do for a date in high school?
For a date?
Uh-huh.
Oh, we would, let's see, we'd go to the movie. There was a theater there in Lexington, and sometimes we'd walk across that bridge, Vernon and my husband and I, and we'd walk across that bridge sometime, and it was a mile long, and go to a movie in Purcell, because Purcell was a little bigger, you know, a little bigger town.
Did a lot of walking. Did he didn't have a car?
No, he didn't have a car.
Or a horse?
No. No, we just rode the bus. But sometimes maybe one of his friends would have a car and we'd double date or something.
So his name was Vernon Embry. Did you have a favorite subject while you were in high school?
Oh, I had some favorite teachers like typing and shorthand. We'd do that old-fashioned shorthand, you know. That was kind of my favorite.
So when you graduated from high school, what did you do?
When I graduated from high school, my dad took me and my older sister to Norman, and we took this civil service test, and that's when I went to work at Tinkerfield. I got that job which now we call it Rosie the Riveter, don't we? I mean, that I did there at Tinkerfield I was a clerk typist, and we just kept track of the airplane parts from the warehouse, you know, in the office. They were listed on a big file cabinet, all the parts of an airplane. And they'd call from different states, you know, that had these Air Force bases and had what they needed, you know, in other states to fix the airplanes or build the airplanes.
Did you get to choose what job you would do, or did they assign you?
They just assigned me.
Assigned you.
I guess, I don't know. I was just so glad to get away from the farm and the big city and go to work. And my sister and I we had a room. We just got a room with a family that rented out a bedroom with kitchen privileges. And we lived there during the time and she went to work at Douglas and I went to work. I don't know why I guess they chose those on that test we took or something, where we went to work. Because I was just so happy to go to work, you know.
And your dad made the decision to take you, or did you ask him to take you up to take the test? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I guess we found out about the test, and of course we always depended on him. He was a very strict father, and we did what he said, you know, and he just, and I think that, yeah, it was more than, because my stepmother I was 10 when he married, and my stepmother.
So what was your sister's name that went with you?
Lillie.
And
she's deceased now.
She was younger or older?
Older.
Older than you. And you shared a room in someone's home?
Mm-hmm. Here in Oklahoma City.
Well, then how would you get from there to work?
A bus. We rode a bus, and later we'd find my neighbor was working at Tinkerfield, the neighbor that lived there in this room where we had the room in the house, and we would just, you know, share a ride with him, with the neighbor, and I think we just paid him so much, you know, he drove his car.
Did you have to send some money home, or could you spend it however you wanted?
I just spent it the way I wanted, which I spent it. You know, my dad was always so saving, but I didn't. I just didn't use my raisings, I guess.
Well, when you were at home working on the farm, did he pay you an allowance or something like that?
No.
No. So it was the first money you had to do something with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you said he was strict. Was church an important part of growing up?
They had church on the farm where we lived, and the schoolhouse on the weekends, you know, and on Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, we always had church there. And but my dad didn't go, but he made us go, and my older sister was a big influence. She was really, you know, into the church. She was a really Christian lady, and she just...
What denomination was it?
It was a Baptist, Free Will Baptist.
Okay. Well, would he discipline you if you got into
Yes.
mischief?
Yes, he did. He was. I know one time I don't know whether this is, but I went to I told him that I was going to a movie, you know, but I wanted to go with Vernon, you know, we had plans, and I told him I was going to my sister's house. She lived after she got married, my older sister. And I had a stepmother then, but she didn't have much say. She let him do all the, you know, raising of us or something. She was just a sweet, kind lady, and anyway, I told him I was going to my sister's house, and I asked him if I could go out there and spend the night and ride the bus that went that way, you know, instead of our farm. And so he said I could go out there that night and just come back to school the next day on that bus. And anyway, my friend and I spent the night with my friend, but Vernon, we met them and her boyfriend, and we went to the movie, and my oldest brother happened to be in Lexington, the town of Lexington. They had a theater there then, and he saw us, you know, and he told my dad. So he disciplined me then, you know, because I had fibbed to him, which I deserved, I guess.
What did he do?
Well, he was gonna whip me, you know, with a switch, and
I had a few of those, so yeah. I had a few of those.
Did you? Yeah. And but it seemed like, as well as I can remember, I was just, you know, he was holding one hand and trying to switch me, you know, and I was just crying and screaming. I don't know, I can't remember it ever touching me, but I thought it was anyway. And but I don't remember telling him any more stories, lies, or whatever they were.
Well, with that many children, how did you do clothes? Did the stepmother sew for you, or did your sister sew? Or
my stepmother sewed for me too, and my older sister, I think she did, because I was, you know, from 4 to 10. She was till I was 10 when my older sister saw to it that I had clothes, and I guess she made them. But my stepmother did make it. And I remember the prom, you know, at Lexington High School, the junior-senior prom, and that's when Vernon and I really, I didn't hardly know he was in the school, you know, till my junior and senior year, mostly senior, I guess. It was the end of the junior prom, the junior year that we kind of really got serious and dated. But after we graduated, he went to the Navy, and I went to work at Tinker Field, and then we corresponded all the time. He was in the Navy, but he developed rheumatic fever in the Navy, in the hospital, after about a year. He was in about a year, I guess, before and he was in the hospital at the time there when they got through with boot camp, and stationed in Farragut, Idaho, and he had rheumatic fever. So he was in the hospital about a month, and there before he got to come home, and then he got a medical discharge. So he wasn't in service too long, just about a year.
But y'all decided to wait until he got out before you got married? How did he propose?
Oh, I guess we just sort of talked about it, and then he agreed that we were going to get married. And I know he was going to tell my dad, ask my dad, but we were like 20 years old then, 20, or maybe, I guess 20. And anyway, he went to ask my dad, and my dad was real kind, it wasn't, I always was just sort of afraid of him, or I was scared, more fear from my dad, but Vernon wasn't. He just went and told him and asked him to come to the wedding, because my older brother and sister-in-law were married, and we got married in the church they did here in Oklahoma City, and he asked them to come to the wedding. But living in Lexington, you didn't ever come to Oklahoma City hardly ever, except he did come now and then to bring a load of cattle or something to sell.
So he didn't come to the wedding?
No.
He didn't come?
No, just my sisters. Just my two, one older and then the youngest one came to the wedding. They were at the wedding, and my best friend that I graduated with. And this friend, one of my friends she passed away just a couple of years ago. Her name was Laverne Odom, and that's what Marsh is. Mm. But she wasn't. She was a cousin to them, and the other one was Dorothy Kelly. That's the one that lived in the town of Lexington that I was supposed to have stayed all night with that night, and I did, but I didn't go to my sister's. But anyway, she lives in New Jersey now, and this, I guess it's about 3 years ago, this other friend of mine, and Laverne Odom, and I went out and spent some time out there with her, and they took us to New York. She lives in New Jersey, but her and her daughter, they took us to New York, and we, took the bus tour there and everything. It was really a great trip.
Good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did your brothers have to serve in the war?
Yes, my brother he was in the army, and he was he was over in France, and that's where he saw that when they went through this town called Newville, and in France, and then he kind of got to checking and found out that the grandparents were, they did originally come from France.
That's pretty interesting.
Uh-huh.
Well, you mentioned that you corresponded with your husband. Did it through the mail, I'm assuming, while he was in the military?
Did it what?
You wrote back and forth.
Yes.
In the mail?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the paper? Someone said the paper was real flimsy, was it? Back when because they had to ration things?
Yeah, because I think I've still have some of those letters that he had written, and they were in a box somewhere. I should have got those out, but I didn't.
You kept some though. That's good.
Hmm?
You kept them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, when did you have to discuss with him when you were going to go to work, or since you weren't married, it was really your decision?
Oh, and it was just my decision.
Well, when he got out and you got married, did you continue to work?
No, I quit work at Tinkerfield. It was in 45 when we got married in October of 1945. And it seems like that at Tinkerfield then, you couldn't just leave, you had to have a reason. And I think I put on there when I resigned or whatever. Because I guess, it was still, they had, still doing work there and everything, and they needed the people, I guess, or something. But I told them I was going to start to, I don't know why I didn't tell them I was going to get married, but I just told them I was going to start going to OU. I was going to start to college, which I never did.
Well, at Tinker, was it mostly women working where you were in your department there?
Yes, yeah, mostly women.
Well, who was your boss? Was your boss a male or a female?
Female.
Female.
And I can, she was a real pretty lady. I thought I could remember her name, but I can't. Can't now, but anyway. But there was a lieutenant that was over her, I guess, but she was the supervisor, this lady was, but I can't remember her name. She was a real pretty blonde, and she had a boyfriend that was a lieutenant, and he was something over that supply division or something it was called.
Well, how was the pay?
Golly, we were trying to think. I can't even remember.
More than you were getting on the farm, though.
It was a fortune to me.
Did you get paid weekly or once a month? Do you remember?
I believe once a month. And I always had a bond taken out, bonds. I always had a $25 bond, that come out of every paycheck. But I believe it was once a month, but I'm not sure. It might have been every 2 weeks.
Well, how would you do lunch? Would you take your own, or did they have a cafeteria, or?
We took our lunch. And at one time I worked the swing shift. That was from 3 till 11 at night.
Swing shift, okay. I hadn't heard it called that, so.
Yeah, swing shift, yeah.
I guess as opposed to night shift. Night shift would probably be 11 to 7 then.
I guess. I can't remember.
Would you get paid more doing the swing shift?
I don't even.
You don't know.
No, don't remember.
Would the job change, or we do the same type of work?
Just the same type of work all the time I was there. And we would, when the soldiers would, they'd leave the base at ever so often. I guess they did their training there, the soldiers. And there was, on the train, they would, when they were shipped out, to go somewhere else, everybody in all of us in the office would go see them off, and wave bye to them or something, And we got to know some. So I did, I got acquainted with a soldier out there. And, what was his name? I can't remember now what his name was, but we kind of corresponded too for a while. He was from Indiana, I know. But then when he shipped out, well, that was the end. But Vernon was still in the background, he was still
in the picture.
Yeah.
Well, did you feel like you were contributing to the war effort by working there?
I just I didn't realize what the war was. I guess I was just so young and so immature or something. Because now looking back, I seemed like, but I remember knowing my brother was in the service and overseas, and everything, and it seemed like I knew the danger or something, felt like the danger, but Vernon was always here in the States, and then he got sick and was in the hospital, so I didn't realize what the war was really about.
He didn't have to go into active duty. He didn't see combat.
No.
He was going to, though, if he hadn't got sick.
Yeah. Well, in the Navy, I guess they, they on the ships, I guess, aren't they, all the time?
They might see some, though. I don't, they probably would have seen some kind of action.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, during that time period, things were rationed, sugar and flour and that sort of thing. Did you have to worry about that?
No, not really.
Nylons?
Yeah, the nylon hose, I kind of remember that. They were really hard to get.
And fabric for clothes, or had your sister prepared you for, you didn't need any clothes during that year?
Yeah. Well, I just, while I was working, I would just go down to downtown and buy me new clothes. That's what I liked,
And that term, ready-made.
Ready-made clothes. Not homemade, but ready-made.
Did you have to wear a certain, to work? Did you have to dress a certain way to go for work?
I don't think so.
Been in the secretarial supply, or probably not.
I don't remember. I can't remember wearing hose, but I guess we did then to work in the wintertime anyway. But I can't remember what I wore.
Well, did you know any of the women that worked in the plant doing mechanical type stuff? Working on the machines and stuff?
No, I never did know any of them. Over in Douglas, and I can't remember how far that was apart. Where Douglas, I think it was real close to Tinkerfield, and
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
It was, because I know my sister and I rode this, same bus when we had the same hours.
Well, what would you do after work for fun? Or not fun?
Yeah, we just, sometimes we'd go to a movie, the Criterion Theater downtown, and go out to Spring Lake and with some more friends,
Well, they had USO things.
Oh,
Did you use?
They had that when I was in high school in Norman. They always had that, and a lot of my friends went to those USO dances in Norman. But my dad never would let us go. We never could go. My sisters and I couldn't go. Because I guess we just meet too many people there or something. Wouldn't let us go.
Did he let your brothers?
Yeah, he was pretty,
They got to, you didn't?
Yeah. And I remember that they got to, they could use his car and go to Lexington or Purcell on the weekend or something.
But he wouldn't let the girls?
No.
Well, did you learn how to drive?
No.
No. Not till later?
Not till after I got married and Vernon and I got a car.
Well, did he get to use the GI Bill for anything when he got out?
I think he could have, and he was going to go to school he was going to start the school at OSU. He was going to go there. But I remember we went up there. I guess this was after we got married that he went up there, and I don't know, money was a big issue then, and I don't know. He could have used that GI Bill, though, I'm sure, then, if he had. But for some reason, he didn't start the school. He got a job with, at first at the Wilson plant, and then Wilson Packing Company, and then he went to work for Liberty National Bank. and he worked there for 25 years.
He probably got to process some GI loans then.
Yeah, yeah, probably so. But they had I think they called it the 5220 Club or something when they got out of service, the guys did, and they got a check every 5220. Well, that was what it was called. And I don't know what that meant really. But anyway, it was so much a week or something. Maybe it was $20 a week or something they got for and that was kind of like a GI Bill or something, money from there.
Until they got set up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. When they first got out of service, they got that.
So you got married, you stopped working, and he started working, right?
The what?
You stopped working when he started working.
Yes. When we got married, I didn't work for her.
Was it his decision for you to stop, or you just wanted to?
I guess I thought to get married. I guess I thought I had to.
Yeah. That's the way it was.
Yeah. So I just stopped working. We had 3 sons, and
that kept you busy.
Yeah. So I didn't go to work. I went back to work after they were in school. You know, after they started school, I went back to work at. I first went to work at Federal Reserve Bank. I worked there for 5 years, I think it was. Then I went to work for the city of Oklahoma City, and I retired from there after 20 years.
And what department?
It was the water department. We called it the water department. It was in the office with taking, water contracts, and we did it all by hand, back then. And then, what year did I start working? 64, I think. 1964. There, and worked till 1984. And we'd just take, get the customers signed up for the addresses they were moving into. And finally, the last few years that we kind of was sort of a computer, but it was not a computer compared to today. But we could get everybody's address was on file, we key it in on the computer, and
they were a lot bigger then too. Computers.
Oh yeah.
I think they back around 1990s when they really came on, but early in the mid 80s they were starting to show up, and a lot of people chose to retire because they didn't want to deal with the computer.
Yeah. And then when I retired in 1984, and I was just getting onto that, those we just gone to those computers, and I really kind of liked it. But now looking back, but I was ready to quit, ready to retire.
Well, having worked at Tinker, did that help get you that position? You think or not?
I don't think so.
Just curious,
Yeah.
Had a little bit of work experience.
I'm sure I put it on my application it was kind of, looking back now, it was kind of like what we did at Tinker, by those airplane part numbers.
Worked with numbers, a lot of numbers,
Mm-hmm.
did you? Well, where was your first house when you got married?
When we first got married, we just lived in a little apartment, got a little apartment over on Southwest 31st Street, close to where my sister and I had that room with that family. And the first house we bought was on Southwest 45th. And that was, I can't remember the years we moved there. I guess it was shortly after 45. It was probably 47 or something. But then we moved to several different houses after that, you know. We moved a lot.
Just finding the place you like the best.
Yeah, just to look a little better, a little bigger, a little better, or something.
Well, where do you consider home?
Well, here I get now, you know, this is home.
Okay. I didn't know if it would be back to Lexington or Oklahoma City.
Well, kind of home place, I guess we call it, you know, is we still have mineral rights to the farm down there, you know, and a lot of relatives still there. So it's still like an old home place I guess we've always called it the old home place. And my nephew, well, he's my brother really now, that my parents adopted him. And he lives, he's has the farm now.
Oh,
so.
still in the family.
Yeah.
Is it a centennial farm?
Probably is.
The Historical Society does a thing, will designate it as a centennial farm if it's been in the same family for 100 years.
Oh.
And it sounds like it might be.
Yeah, I'm sure
if it was your grandparents and then your father's.
Yeah.
And then, theirs. I'll check into it.
Yeah.
I'll try to send you the paperwork and you can pass it on.
Okay, I'll give it to him.
You just have to be able to prove that it's been in the same family for 100 years. And it's probably still producing something. Does he lease it out or have cattle or something?
Yeah, we have leased it out. In fact, just a couple of years ago, there hadn't been any leasing in a long, long time, but just a couple of years ago, we leased it again, you know, and to some company out of Blanchard, some oil, gas and oil, or oil and gas or something. But I guess since the drop in that field, I don't know, they're not doing much anymore, I don't guess.
Well, some people lease it out and let someone else farm it too, like have cattle on it.
But this brother that lives there now he has since acquired a lot of some other land around there, you know, and he still has cattle, and I don't know whether he's doing any farming or not. I don't think he may be doing some grains and things to feed the cattle. Not sure whether he does that or not.
So they adopted a ninth child? You had a house full then?
Yeah. Well, we were all gone, you know, that was years later. That my stepmother, well, you know, she never had a child of her own, and so they adopted him.
Well, I love to go around, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has a really nice family now built a new home there, and well, it's not new now, but several years ago he built a home there.
And it's still in the family. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, when you were working at Tinker, was there a favorite part of that experience? What was your favorite part? Or least favorite?
I remember going to the training school that we went to. You know, we went to a training school when we first went to work there, you know, and it was in the really hot summertime, and we'd have these classes, you know, and it was so hard to stay awake. I can remember so hard to stay awake during that training session that we had to go to, and I think that probably lasted 6 weeks maybe before we really started to work.
No air conditioning?
Probably not.
No.
No, because I remember how hot it was and sleepy. I guess that's why we got so sleepy.
Well, how early did you have to be to work?
I think 8 o'clock.
8 to 5 or 4:30?
Mhm.
8 to 5?
8 to 5.
And then on weekends, would you go back to the farm?
Most of the time. Yeah, that's what we'd ride the bus to back home to Lexington.
One suitcase for both of you?
Yeah. I think so. Can't even remember that.
Well, typically you didn't have many clothes with you just for the weekend.
Yeah.
So, have to go back and help with the chores?
No, I didn't after then.
Did you learn how to sew?
I learned how to embroider. My stepmother, she taught me how to embroider, but I never did learn how to sew. I watched her a lot. She sewed for us too. I remember she made a prom dress for me when I would go to prom when I was a junior. She made that prom dress for me.
Where did she get the fabric?
They had a little store in Lexington, you know, a little fabric store. Or I think they called it a variety store then or something.
What color? What color was your dress?
Blue.
Blue.
Blue with white lace.
Sounds pretty.
Yeah.
Match your blue eyes.
Yeah.
Well, did she quilt?
I think she did. After I left, after I married, I know we'd go back a lot after we were married, and she had a quilt on those quilting frames, you know, up in her room, and she did quilt something.
You didn't?
No.
Didn't have a lot of time, did you?
No.
Not with 3 boys.
Yeah. And
did any of them go to OSU? Your sons?
yes, my oldest son graduated from OSU.
Oh, okay. Go Pokes.
Yeah.
When? Do you know what year?
He graduated in 1964? I think 1964.
About the time
Or
you
maybe that was when he graduated from high school.
Well, you said 64 was when you went to work at the water resource place.
At the city
Mm-hmm.
was 64.
Was
wasn't it?
64?
Mm-hmm.
So did he finish high school that year and go to college? I was trying to help you with your timeline there.
Yeah. Let's see. I believe 64.
What year was he born?
He was born in 47.
So 47, so plus
64 would be
17, 18 years old. Yeah, it'd be about right when he would graduate from high school.
high school. Yeah. And you know what? During the last 2 years of high school, we always lived here in Oklahoma City, but Vernon was, of course, he was still at the bank. He was at the bank for 25 years, but he bought a farm out at Prague, Oklahoma, and it was, I think, 160 acres out there, and we moved out there for a couple of years, and I continued to work at the city during that time, though, for Well, I guess I did quit for 1 year, and then I went back to work at the city after a year. I stayed home out there at Prague for 1 year, and then I went to work back at the city, went back to the city to work. And he graduated in, so that would have been high school. So from OSU he would have graduated in
68, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when you retired, what did you do?
When I retired from this city, well, Vernon kind of retired too from the bank at that time, you know. But he went into a lot of other businesses. He was in real estate for a while, and because he was real young, you know, when he retired after 25 years. And so I guess he was still in his early 50s when he went into real estate and insurance. He was sold insurance for a while.
Did you get to travel much?
We did travel some. We had he had a sister in California, and we'd go out there and spend some time in the winters. After we retired, we went out there and stayed, you know, a couple months in during January when it was real cold here, and our children were, you know, always here. Except Harold, after he graduated, he was a pharmacist, and my oldest son that graduated, and he went to Texas after he graduated. He went to OU to get his pharmacy degree, his second degree after OSU, and he went to Texas then, and he married a girl there she was there from Texas, and so they had two grandchildren. I have 4 grandchildren in all now. But I've lost 2 sons. Harold, the oldest one, passed away. At his office, he just had a heart attack in his office, and that was in 2002. He passed away, and my youngest son passed away in let's see, what year was that? It was 1998. Yeah, that he passed away.
Well, he was really young then.
Yeah. Yeah, he was 46. And they had a son. He and his wife had a son. But they developed hepatitis, and she later passed away about 10 years after that. She lived about 10 years. So they just had the one son, and he's working in the wind turbines now in California. So,
Wow.
and he just got married. Well, we're getting off on my...
No, that's okay. Do they ever ask you about being a Rosie?
About a what?
Being a Rosie, the
No.
grandchildren?
No, and you know, I just have recently, it's been kind of recent that I, joined this Rosie the Riveter through Virginia Brady.
Yes.
I mean, she got me to go into the meetings they'd have here. Did you ever interview Katie Grant?
No. Do I need to add her to my list?
I don't think she's in very good health anymore. She was the one that always was at the meetings. She was over this or something.
You're my first one. You're the first one that I've done for Rosie.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's kind of new to you too, isn't it?
It's new to me too, yes.
And I'm just wondering here.
No, you've done great. I mean, it was an interesting time in our history.
Yeah,
So.
and it brings back so many, talking about it, you know, it just brings back so many memories.
Well, do you remember the day the war was declared over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that was 1940, what was it? The war was over in, it seemed like I was still in high school then, I was still at...
Well, it was declared in 41. Pearl Harbor Pearl Harbor was 41.
Yeah, 41. So I was in, but it seemed like we all went to Purcell and in cars. Some of them had cars, you know. And of course, a lot of them were drafted out of high school, you know, and because we graduated in 44, and some of the boys, I know one of the boys that was drafted, he was killed almost instantly. Galen Burke over there, and he was in the army, and he left he had to leave high school and go, and he was killed. I remember just shortly after he went into service.
Well, in 41, you would have been, what, 14 or 15, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
1941. Well, do you remember hearing the announcement that war was starting, like when Roosevelt came on the radio and said all of that?
Yeah, in 1941.
I mean, did you have a radio at home?
Mm-hmm. And we went out to, I know my dad and my stepmother and the three youngest us three youngest were girls, and we all went out to my older sister's where she had, you know, gotten married and had family, and she lived out in a little community called Corbett, and we all went out there that day. That, you know, and I remember how sad my dad was or something, because I guess he knew the boys, you know, would be drafted, but just one of them was. I don't know. One of them was drafted. Orville. He was the middle one. No, he was the youngest boy, and he was just real sad. I remember him talking, and my older sister, you know, they were all concerned about who was gonna go and have to go and be drafted.
Well, had your dad been in World War I?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. He might not have been old enough to be. That would have been 18, somewhere through there, 1918. Off topic.
Yeah.
Well, then fast forward. Do you remember much about when they declared it was over, that the boys could come home? Do you remember that?
I remember that day, and I remember we all went we were in, wasn't there kind of a VJ day and a VE day, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And one was before the other. Which was the first? I can't remember, VE Day or VJ Day.
I'm not sure.
But one of those, I was still at Lexington in 1940.
I'm thinking 45 was when it was over, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because Roosevelt passed away in 45.
Yeah.
So the next one had to do some of it, but.
Yeah, and I was at Tinkerfield when he passed away, I believe. I was already working
and he passed away in April of 45. So you got married in October of 45.
Oh, yeah.
So you were probably at Tinker, you're right.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on seemed like we had a television out there at Tinkerfield or something when he died. And he died in 45, so I would have still been working there.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And it seemed like there was a big tornado too during that time. While we were out there was a tornado, and it was, I don't know, we were all kind of trying to get in a safe place or something. That kind of ties in with the death of Roosevelt, and I don't know whether it was real close together or what.
I think I read that it's the same day, actually. I think it was the same day. That they had a tornado through there.
Yeah. I thought maybe I was just running it together, but I do kind of remember that. It seemed like it was the same day. We already died of that tornado.
Yeah, and April's that time of the year for Oklahoma.
Yeah, it would have been.
Well, and when it was actually over, your husband was already out on his medical discharge, so it wouldn't be as important date to remember for you.
Yeah, but we were all at Lexington, and one of those days, the VJ or VE won, and I don't know whether we were, I don't think I was married then. But anyway, we were just kind of celebrating, you know, like going down the main street of Purcell in the cars and honking the horns, and I remember doing that on one of those days, VE or VJ day, one of them.
Okay.
One was 45 and one was it wasn't but a months apart. Maybe it was just months apart.
I should have looked before I came, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was reading too something about they gave blue stars and gold stars for people to put in their windows.
Windows, yeah. And so, I think we had one of those in our old farmhouse. I think my dad put one for my brother.
So blue, yours would have been blue?
Yeah. For if you had a son in service, or very few women they weren't drafted then. Well, I don't think they're even drafted now.
Yeah, they could be drafted. Well, I don't know. They may just volunteer now. I mean, women do serve now.
Most everything is volunteer now, isn't it? Yeah. For the men too. I mean, we don't have a draft, do we? For the men.
Well, did your sons have to serve like in Vietnam or Korea or anything?
My 3 sons were all were due to be drafted, but they joined, and my middle son joined the National Guard and served in that for I think 2 years, and my oldest son was in the Air Force, and he was stationed at Enid and got his wings, you know, so he was real proud of that after before he went into his I guess it was after that he went to OU and got his pharmacy degree, and then he went to Midland, Texas, and that's where he...
Well, Enid's not too far from here. Enid wasn't too far.
No, I remember us going up there. Well, he was in the Air Force there.
So overall, it's been a pretty good life? Overall, it's been a pretty good life?
Yes, it's been a wonderful life. I've really been blessed and had a lot of heartaches and heartbreaks, but anyway, I just rely on God to just see me through.
Well, nowadays, what do you do with your time?
Oh, I go to an exercise class.
Okay.
And church, and our church is just going through a big change now. You know, Asbury Methodist Church, and St. Luke's is the bigger Methodist church here, St. Luke's Methodist Church, and they have taken us over or in, you know, and we're a mission church now. We're called St. Luke's Asbury. But and the sermon is on a screen by John Long, the minister over at St. Luke's. It's a big change, but and of course we went to that church for about, well, it was probably like 60 years. My husband and I, and our boys. And so it's really been a change. Many people are gone and moved away and gone to heaven. A lot of them. So I have we have a lot of nieces and nephews that I really close to and really enjoy them, and they're all. I just have the one son, and he's still here in Oklahoma City, and his wife and their son, my grandson.
Do you have to cook for them now?
No, they I know. I used to a lot, but not anymore.
Not a favorite recipe they make you make?
No. Well, yes, at Christmas time we always want that Jello recipe made, and pumpkin roll and a few things like that I still make.
Jello? For what kind of Jello?
Oh, it's cranberry, strawberry Jello.
Sounds good.
Yeah. With whipped cream and nuts and pineapple and all that stuff in it.
Sounds really good. Well, I thank you for sharing all of your stories with us. Is there anything else you want to add before we close?
Just that it's been a wonderful life, and this good friend of mine, that Virginia Brady, she just passed away. We'd always gone to church together too, and we shared a lot of memories together, and because we'd gone to church over there for many years together too, and I guess that's about all.
She was a Rosie. Do you know what she did?
Yes,
Yeah,
she worked on the airplanes.
She was.
Yeah, she has an article in that Rosie the Riveters thing.
I'll have to look.
Yeah.
So she actually did the guns and
She
the rivets
she was
and
really
all
a
that.
Rosie the Riveter. She did on the airplanes.
Was she your age or was she a little older?
She's a couple years older.
Older. Okay. I'm sorry we missed her.
Yeah.
That would have been a good one to get.
Have you've seen this?
Just a minute. Look, let me close off before we.
Okay.
I usually ask, my last question is, when history's written about you, what do you want it to say? How do you want to be remembered?
I just would like to be remembered as trying to help other people, and like our church now, we're going through this kindness project, so kindness always comes to my mind, to be kind and love.
Well, you were kind enough to talk to me today, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.